It has never been more clear as we have multiple huge Jays trade updates, including a brand new report from Ben Nicholson Smith revealing some huge details surrounding the Jays' next move. And it has never been more clear what that is. We're going to break down that exact report, discuss what it means going forward, but also break down several new trade updates and some other updates ahead of this evening's crucial series opener against the Cleveland Guardians. Folks, a ton to go over today. You're going to want to stay tuned till the end. But before we get into it all, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Jays content. You guys are absolute beasts. So thank you guys for continued support over here as we're on the road to, of course, the big goal, 20,000 subscribers. Folks, a lot to go over today. It's getting a little bit crazy. Now, the Jays, it's a must-win series this week here starting tonight. You got to win this series. You know, the AL East is going to be very interesting, still well within reach here. But we have a new report from Ben Nicholson Smith. An article came out, and it is extremely interesting. Now, basically goes on to outline what the Jays' path to buying is. We also have another report from Mark Feinstein revealing a new target. A ton of different things here, folks. Let's start with the first one. How internal developments will shape the Toronto Blue Jays trade needs. And I'm not going to go through every single paragraph. Feel free to go on sportsnet.ca and look at the article for that. But I want to dive into a few different things paired with some new reports that have dropped. Now, let's start with this. And he basically goes on to say that the first answer, or the first question that must be answered, is what do we need? For most contenders, the answer will evolve a little bit over time. And that's true for the Blue Jays. Health is a big variable here, but one of their needs is a power check. And of course, we know surrounding Anthony Santander, he's in a weird spot. He's worse than he should be. They shouldn't have rushed him back this early, all these different things. But power is going to be a big need for the Toronto Blue Jays come the trade deadline. And of course, over the next month or so till the deadline, seeing how Dalton Varsho plays, seeing if Santander gets back, Nathan Lucas, that's going to obviously tell a lot towards it. And I think for the power aspect of it, they definitely need another bat. There's no doubt about it. Keegan Matheson said in my video there a few weeks ago that they desperately need another bat. It's just a matter of who's available and who they can go out and get. I mean, guys like JD Martinez are even still available. But let's focus on the big talking point, and it's the bullpen and the starting rotation. Now, let's start with the bullpen a little bit here before we dive into a new report surrounding a target. Now, we know the bullpen needs help, and every single or every single trade deadline rather, and offseason, the teams are looking to improve their bullpen. Now, you can see in the second paragraph, with Nick Sandlin now back, of course, Ryan Burr and Jimmy Garcia are going to be nearing a return. We saw Jimmy Garcia, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, pitch a scoreless frame in AAA. So Jimmy Garcia is looking very, very solid, and I think Jimmy Garcia is going to be back, very, very soon. They still need bullpen upside, but what they need more than bullpen upside is the starting rotation. And we know Max Scherzer is returning to, of course, the rotation on Wednesday. But we need to see if that upside is there. And you can see at the bottom, this is the most crucial part of his update. The next month will reveal more about the health of Bowden Francis, who recently got a cortisone shot, and Alek Manoah, who should progress to rehab games in July. In the meantime, Eric Lauer, Spencer Turnbull will get chances to pitch, allowing the Jays to get a better grasp on what they are. And no one is on the cusp of making the majors out of the big leagues. Something important to note here also is Alek Manoah's update kind of within this. Alek Manoah, he's going to start in games in July there. So it's going to be very crucial to see how he progresses, how fast and how slow, hopefully fast, he's going to be progressing here. And you kind of look at what the Jays can do to address. I mean, again, I talked about the bullpen a little bit and the hitting. The rotation is the number one point of need. They need to get maybe even a trade similar to the José Berríos trade, similar to what Keegan Matheson suggested and said on my video there a few weeks ago. They desperately need something, and they need this fast. They need this sooner rather than later. And you look at the expiring contracts, which is a little bit crazy. Jimmy Garcia free agent, Springer free agent, Kevin Gausman free agent after 2026, along with Dalton Varsho. But this year, you have Bassett, Bichette, Scherzer, Green, and Swanson. Now, Swanson, of course, is now DFA'd. So you're left with Bassett, Bichette, Scherzer, and Chad Green. And with that in mind here, the Jays were linked to Edward Cabrera. And Edward Cabrera is a very interesting pitcher. We'll probably have another full video coming on him at some point. But you can see there the potential fits are the Blue Jays, the Athletics, the D-backs, and the Guardians, who the Jays play tonight. And this is, of course, from Mark Feinstein. It has been widely assumed that Sandy Alcantara would be the most likely pitcher to be traded, but the former LNL Cy Young winner has struggled since his return, and of course he pitched better as of late. But Edward Cabrera of the Marlins will be a less expensive option in terms of both prospect capital and salary, as he's earning $1.95 million this season and is arbitration eligible for 3 more years after 2025. And folks, you pair that with the fact that we think and we know the Jays in the past have done a deal similar to the José Berríos trade, where you're trading for a guy who has a little bit of control, 1 year left, and then you extend him. For Edward Cabrera, you're getting a pitcher who's not only under control for this year, but you have 3 more years beyond that to really help solidify your starting rotation. You could pair him alongside Berríos, some of the pitching prospects that are hopefully going to start coming up. I mean, we're talking about guys like, Alek Manoah is not a prospect, but guys like Trey Savage, maybe even this year, but probably in 2026. You add him to the core, and boy, oh boy, is he a fantastic starting pitcher this year regarding fit for the Jays. You think, and you look at his stats, he's a 3.81 ERA in 12 games. Year before, of course, 20 games, a 4.95. Like, the good news is here, he's not super old. He's still fairly young, mid to late 20s. He's not going to command a ton of prospect capital. And of course, a lot of teams are going to be, in the running for him, but he's not going to command a ton of prospect capital. But you have him under control. And is he going to be, and it's similar to everyone we've been talking about, is he going to be that next elite starter? No. But is he going to be a solid starter who I actually think is on the upward trend of his career, kind of starting to figure himself out? I do. He had a great season the sophomore year in 2022, a really solid year in 2023, 4.24 ERA. Struggled a little bit, last year, but this year has bounced right on back. And these are the type of players, rather, that make the most sense for the Jays. Guys who have control, where you won't be afraid to give up some of your prospects, whether that be guys like Aurelvis Martinez, even maybe an Alan Rodin type who's MLB ready in theory, but not necessarily performing at the big league level, but could have more opportunities for a team like the Miami Marlins. Things like that, right? And it would take multiple prospects, of course. You wouldn't just be able to give up one here for Edward Cabrera. But for Sandy Alcantara, it's going to be interesting because he is not really going to be as available. And if he is available, Alcantara, then, of course, it's a bit of a different story. But for Edward Cabrera, you know what you're getting. You're getting a reliable pitcher. And for a Jays team that is in desperate need of starting pitching, you have so many question marks. Eric Lauer, Spencer Turnbull, how will Bowden Francis return from his injury? How will Alek Manoah bounce back from his long-awaited return? You have some prospects in the system, none of which are necessarily or particularly close. It's very, very obvious that the Jays need to make a move, and it has never been more clear that they need to make multiple moves. And there's a lot of question marks about who the Jays can get. The Jays need, first and foremost, starting pitchers. That is the number one priority here. You also desperately need another power hitter, who will have videos coming up on that soon, especially as rumors start to, escalate more closer to the trade deadline there in late July. Like bullpen help, you need that as well. And can you work with the team to maybe package, an Edward Cabrera and a bullpen arm or something like that? That's also in the, cards. You think back to a few years ago when they traded Jordan Groshans, and you got Adam Simber, Zach Pop, both those guys back. Some very interesting, bullpen pieces there. Trading Rowdy Tellez for Trevor Richards. Like, the Jays have done a good job at getting those guys. And Ross Atkins, love him or hate him, he's been fantastic for the most part in trades. Now, you can look back to some where he, the Teoscar Hernandez one he probably regrets. Dalton Varsho one, I still like that trade. But in general, he's gotten a lot of good value out of trades. I mean, think about getting Brandon Little, about all these different guys. We need to have faith in him that he's going to be able to steal somebody from, another team here. And Edward Cabrera would be a perfect fit, at least in my eyes, for this Toronto Blue Jays team. But folks, reports starting to pick up. Things are getting crazy. And the Jays, they desperately need to make a move, because you can only run with 3 starting pitchers for so long. But let me know down below what your thoughts are. Hopefully, Jays can take care of business today. You guys are beasts. Cheers.